Over the past 2 years, I went from getting literally the rock bottom level of grades, the C's, the D's, the ones you don't want, to averaging B's and A's in every single exam with less work. And it was all because of a simple game plan I put myself on that got rid of that weird, tired feeling, that lack of energy when you come back from school and you can't study. And this is exactly what I'm going to go over in this video, and I promise you, if you can solve this problem where you have no energy when you're trying to study after you come back from school, you will finally save your exams and your grades as well. You see, it was around 2022 and I remember every single day I'll come back from school, I'd rush upstairs, I'll take off my bag, and usually I'll load up Discord to go and play with my video game friends, you know. I'll play like GTA and stuff like that. But today was a bit different because as soon as I got back and I took off my bag, I remembered I have a test tomorrow. I have one of the most important tests the next day. So instead I avoid all the distractions, I load up my computer, I don't go on Discord, I don't load up any video game, and instead I go and rush to get my flashcards, these digital flashcards that I've made over the past few months that I don't know anything about. And obviously my focus is terrible, you know. I've come back from school, I'm so tired, you know. I've been paying attention to the teachers, my brain power is just depleted, it's gone, it's non-existent. So instead of actually going through my flashcards and preparing for this exam that is tomorrow, by the way, I just start daydreaming. I think of the video game, I think of playing with my friends, and I just think of everything that is not studying. And we're literally points like 5 minutes in, my head was on the desk and I was just falling asleep. That's how tired I was, and as a result, every single day this same cycle would happen. It was literally Groundhog Day, if you watch that movie, where the same things happen every single day. I'd, you know, come back from school, I'd try to focus on doing my flashcards, but I just couldn't, and I would end up falling asleep like 5 minutes into the studying session. And what would happen was, every single studying session I would usually just spend my time looking for studying tips. So I'd spend my studying session looking how to study when I should be studying. And to be honest, it's honestly sad that they don't teach you this in school. So they don't, you know, tell you actually how to study when you get home from school, or any of the productivity advice, right? Because imagine how much your grades would improve if you simply learn how to be productive and actually use your time to study effectively. And this is what I want to go in this video, because you probably already know right now that studying or trying to study after school is a death wish. You come back from school, your brain is so tired, there's no productivity advice that you can take that would actually impact you and make you study more effectively. So what I want to do in this video is I'm going to give you a bunch of different things you can try that I've tried myself that have worked for me, and you can take each one, you can try all of them, but I promise you, if you just try one thing here, it will work for you. So the first thing you have to realise is there's two types of work you can do. There's shallow work and there's deep work. If you've ever read the book Deep Work by Cal Newport, you probably already know these terms. Shallow work is the work that you do that doesn't produce any impact on the world. It's very inefficient, and it's probably the work you do when you come back from school and you just can't focus. But deep work, on the other hand, is the opposite. You see, you actually produce a much better result with literally less time. But here's the kicker though. To actually do this deep work, you need energy. And when you come back from school, you don't have any. You've already used it all in the lessons, you know, talking to random people. Now there's a couple of things I've done to actually gain this energy back. The first thing you need to do, and this is kind of like a no-brainer that you probably already know, you need to avoid every single dopamine activity. And what I mean by that is the activities that usually like are super fun, you think are fun, right? The video games, the scrolling, the junk food. You need to avoid every single one of these, because I'll tell you this right now, when you actually do these activities, you put your dopamine baseline all the way to the top, so you feel super good, right? But when you go to study, it drops all the way down, because studying is not fun at all. It's super boring, and when you actually make that drastic change, you're not going to study. You're going to keep on getting distracted, and instead you can do activities that don't really require and don't really give you that much dopamine. So for example, when I come back from school, I don't study, I don't even work on my business either, because I just can't. What I do instead is I do the work that doesn't really require that much cognitive energy. So for example, I might read a book. The point is, every single day when I was super tired, I would, you know, run to scrolling, and I would scroll for hours and hours, and when it came to study, I just couldn't, because the dopamine was so different, my brain couldn't adapt to it. And what will happen is, when you do these non-cognitive tasks that don't really require that much energy, you'll start to gain energy after a while. Maybe this is like 5 PM, so like I would come back from school and start to study like 3 PM. So maybe for the 2 hours when you come back, you don't do any work, you don't do anything, and you just simply let your brain rest. And I don't mean resting with video games or anything like that, because your brain doesn't rest when you're doing these things. I'm talking about the normal activities humans are supposed to do. So even if you just take a 2-hour nap and get back to work, you'll be so much more likely to do this deep work, and you'll be able to study much more efficiently, okay? Because what you have to realize is, every single hour of deep work you do is normally equivalent to 3 to 4 hours of shallow work. And by the way, if you really want to improve your grades by studying less, by becoming super productive, click the first link link in the description or the pinned comment to join my free community where you can get advice from me and lots of free resources, okay? Now this next activity I did, which kind of allowed me to study way more efficiently when I came back from school, was something called a goal contingency. And the reason why most people cannot study efficiently after school is one of two things. It's either they really feel tired and they just can't focus, or they use that as an excuse to actually do the work, which is what most people do actually. And when this happens to you, this is when you have to do something called a goal contingency. A goal contingency is basically when you trick your brain into doing studying. So for example, this is what I do when I just can't study or I just don't want to, I feel tired, right? I say to myself, right, let's just set a 5-minute timer to study, and after that 5 minutes is over, we can go and play video games, we can go and scroll, we can go and do whatever we want, right? So you study for the 5 minutes, you do what you told yourself that you were going to do, right? But after that 5 minutes is over, here's the kicker. You do not go and play video games, you do not go and scroll. Instead, you set another 5-minute timer to study. And what happens is, the task of doing 5 minutes of studying is way too easy, so you don't really feel like any resistance doing it. But when you keep on doing this, your brain realizes that studying the activity is actually pretty easy. It doesn't really take that much energy, so your brain slowly gets into a flow state so you can study more efficiently. So this is going to be your first actionable step. So whenever you go to study after you've come home from school and you feel tired, I want you to just try this exercise, because I guarantee once you get into a flow state, you will actually gain energy. It sounds weird, but trust me, when your brain gets into a flow state, it's so much easier to study, and it doesn't really require that much energy either. And this next thing you can do, this actionable step, which is very practical, is something many people don't want to do, and it is simply waking up before school to study for your exams. And I know what you're thinking, this sounds super extreme. This sounds like, oh, I don't want to wake up at like 6 AM to study, I don't want to wake up at 7 AM to study. But literally just imagine how impactful this might be for you. Imagine waking up, doing all your studying, you go to school and you don't have to worry about studying when you get back from school. And this is another benefit, but when you wake up, this is when you have the most energy, so you use all your energy onto the studying, so you can actually learn information and get way better grades. Because the way I want you to think of focus is literally just like a fuel in a car. You've got this full tank, right? But as you slowly use the engine, as you slowly drive forward and use the fuel, it starts to deplete. And eventually, when it depletes, you just can't drive it anymore. You're just stuck there, maybe on the highway, and you have to wait to get fuel back, right? This is exactly just like our brain. When we keep on using it and we use up the energy or the focus, which is the fuel, it starts to deplete and eventually we can't focus on anything. So that can be your actionable step if you really want to maximize your grades, and can guarantee this is the most important thing you need to do, okay? Now this next part of the video is going to be something that is quite psychological, and it's something called the resistance. Resistance is kind of like this feeling that causes you to not do the action that you want to do or you need to do. So for example, when you go to study, maybe you feel like you're super tired, maybe you feel like, oh, I've studied so much this week, let's just have a break, let's go and play video games, right? This is resistance kicking in. It's basically your older self that desires comfort trying to take over your mind. It's trying to convince you that the wrong thing to do, which is like playing video games, like scrolling instead of studying, is actually a good idea, but it's not. And it's our job as humans, if we want to actually get the grades and just improve all areas of our life, we need to face and battle this resistance. So I'll tell you right now, around 50% of people watching this video don't actually feel tired after school. They've got energy to study, but the reason why they clicked on this video is because the resistance kicks in. They use the excuse of saying they don't have any energy to study, when really they do. So this is kind of like another actionable step I want you to do. I just want you to think, what kind of resistance do you have in your life? Because every single human has this. It comes in different forms. Like, for example, when I used to try and study and I just couldn't, the main reason was because I feared the effort. I didn't want to study because it looked super daunting, right? I don't want to sit at my desk for 4 hours a day when I could just be doing something more fun. So literally just teleport your mind back to the place when you're trying to study and just think, what emotion were you feeling? Were you feeling like this dread that you don't want to study because it's too hard? Maybe you think and you're trying to convince yourself that you're too tired when you're not. Whenever it is, I just want you to be aware, the next time you go to study, I want you to be aware of this feeling or emotion. Because being aware of the resistance is usually enough to just counter it and just do the action anyway, because you're realizing, right, this is not me, this is my older self who doesn't want the best for me. It's trying to maximize comfort, which is not what we want, because that doesn't allow growth. Literally just face this resistance and walk to your desk, force your legs to literally to walk to your desk and just sit down and study. Because like I said with the goal contingencies, after 5 minutes your brain will realize that wow, this is actually really easy. We can do this for 2 hours, 3 hours now. Now this last point I'm going to go over is something from the book called Atomic Habits. And in Atomic Habits, basically, James Clear states there's 4 laws to actually do a good habit, just like studying. And they are making it attractive, making it easy, making it obvious, and also making it satisfying. And if you watched any of my videos before, you've probably already heard me say that humans are always going to take the path of least resistance. We always want the easy path, right? If you had an option to either play video games or study for exam, everyone would choose video games. So if you want to make yourself do a hard action, you need to make that action super easy to do. Literally, when I used to study and when I was actually maximizing my grades to the fullest, every single time I would come home, I wasn't wasting time thinking about what to study. I wasn't wasting time setting up everything. My flashcards were on my desk, I had past papers on my desk, and it would already set a timer for me to study for an hour. So every single time I'd come home from school, I would just sit on my desk and study for an hour, and that was it. So this is your 4th actionable step. I just want you to think, how can you make the action super easy for you to do? And trust me, when you do this, your brain will always study, because your brain always takes the path of least resistance. When something is easy to do, or it's not hard, that's when our brain takes action, okay? So those are the 4 points I wanted to go over in this video. And like I said at the start, if you want to really maximize your grades and get A's consistently with literally less work, click the first link in the description to join my free community, okay? I really hope you enjoyed this video, and obviously if you want to ask any questions in the comments, please do. Goodbye, have a nice day, you'll get them in the face again. Goodbye.
Whoa.